right. What is the molecular formula of aluminum sulfate? That's definitely a great question here. So first we need to find out what aluminum sulfate is. So first, molecular. So similar to what we did before, we kind of have to deconstruct and figure out what aluminum sulfate is. And we discussed this earlier where we separate like that, just kind of somewhere in the middle here. So aluminum sulfate. So now let's use the easier part. We know that aluminum is just straight from the periodic table, aluminum. Now sulfate, okay, this is different. If it was aluminum sulfide, okay, it'd just be the sulfur. But sulfate, these are the things you have to memorize as well. There's like sulfate, chromate, phosphate. It's sulfur with a certain amount of oxygens. The amount of oxygens are something that you also have to memorize and get familiar with. Specifically for sulfate, that's SO4, okay? And sulfate, okay, the SO4 actually has has negativity of 2 minus, okay? So SO4 2 minus, okay? That is for sulfate. Now aluminum, that one, to figure out the amount of valence electrons it has, as I said, the typical way for the easier metals and elements in general is to just go with the periodic table. So it's on the 13th column. So expect it to have 3 valence electrons, meaning it wants to give away 3 of them, all 3. Alright, and if you wanted to use a different method of electron configuration, you'd actually have neon. Okay, that's what you start with. Alright, and then you'd have 3s2, 3p1, okay? And that 2 and 1 is how you know that on the third most outer shell for aluminum, the third shell, there's 3 electrons in total. And they'd rather give away those 3 than to go through the hassle of trying to add 5 more. So now we want to balance out the aluminum and the sulfate. How are we going to do that? So we look at these numbers, we need to find their lowest multiple that has both 3 and 2 in it. The only thing there that can do that is 6. Because you can't use 3 because it doesn't divide evenly in 2. So you need 6 for both. So you get to 6 from aluminum, you need to be times 2. And for sulfate to get there, it needs to be times 3. Okay? Because the goal here is that you still want a net electronegativity of 0. This should cancel out. 6 minus 6 equals 0. So with that being said, you have Al2, okay, SO4, 3. That right there is aluminum sulfate. Now, as you can see, Lance, we would have never gotten this and would have definitely, you know, probably puts the wrong values in different places. So let's see how we did though. Yep. The molecular formula for aluminum sulfate is Al2, SO4, 3. So this is correct. Okay. And exactly, as we solved it, we really broke it down. We figured out how many electrons aluminum likes to have. Sulfate is something you do have to memorize. It's a little bit unfair for me because I kind of just said that's what it was. But it's actually, you should have a list of them, especially when you're in the level where you start dealing with all these 8s. These are something that you need to memorize because there's a lot of them, but as you see them more and more and more, you get used to them. Okay? Sulfate's a very common one as well. You'll see sulfate